imagine playing like 100 minutes of just perfect world-class defense. You know, you are executing every single tactical instruction flawlessly.
Yeah, and your goalkeeper's back there making saves that honestly defy the laws of physics.
Right. You are agonizingly close to securing a ticket to the biggest tournament on earth, the World Cup. And then, in just a fraction of a second, your dreams are completely shattered.
All because of a single opposing defender who, just happens to make the right run.
Yeah.
At the exact right time.
In the absolute chaos of a set piece.
It's the ultimate heartbreak of the sport.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do everything right in open play. But when millions of dollars and national pride are on the line, well, tactics often just go entirely out the window in the dying embers of a match.
They really do. Welcome to this special deep dive, right here on Apex Real Sports. Today, we're heading down to the glaring lights of Guadalajara for the World Cup 2026 qualification final between Jamaica and DR Congo.
Oh, what a match.
Incredible, right? We've spent the last 48 hours just poring over the tactical data, rewatching the match footage from every conceivable angle, and really digging into the post-game interviews to figure out exactly how this monumental game was won and lost.
And we have to remember the stakes here. They were frankly suffocating.
Absolutely. I mean, Jamaica, led by interim coach Rudolph Speed, they stepped onto the pitch riding this massive high. They had that gritty 1-0 victory over New Caledonia just a few days prior.
But, and this is crucial, they were stepping onto the pitch with incredibly heavy legs. That New Caledonia match was a total physical war of attrition.
Yeah, real grind.
Exactly. And waiting for them was Sebastian DeSaber's DR Congo squad, which is a completely different beast. Hungry, tactically astute, and fully aware that their opponents might be running on fumes.
Okay, let's unpack this, because from the exact moment that opening whistle blew, we weren't just watching a football match. We were watching this high-speed tactical chess game where someone basically tried to flip the board over on move one.
Oh, completely. DR Congo did not come out looking to, feel out the Jamaican defense.
Not at all. They came out with this blistering get-it-and-go mentality. They immediately established this fluid, rapid-fire passing rhythm on the left flank.
Nathaniel Mabuku and Yoani Wissa, they were combining as if they shared a single central nervous system.
It was terrifying, carving out space, moving the ball at terrifying speeds. And then, almost immediately, Cedric Bakambu puts the ball in the back of the net.
The stadium just erupts.
But the flag goes up for offside.
What's fascinating here is the sheer tactical audacity of DeSaber's game plan in those opening minutes. Normally, in a final of this magnitude, teams are conservative.
Right, they want to settle their nerves and just feel it out.
Exactly. But DeSaber looked at the data. He knew Jamaica had just played that grueling, highly physical match on Thursday. So instead of a slow build-up, DR Congo opted for an immediate, high-octane assault.
To really test Jamaica's lungs and legs before the Reggae Boyz even had a chance to catch their breath.
Yeah, they wanted to flood the defensive zones and force a catastrophic error early.
And anyone who follows African football knows exactly how lethal Wissa and Bakambu are when they find even a sliver of space at the top of the penalty area.
Oh, absolutely. Give them an inch, and they don't just take a mile.
They take a goal. Right. So that offside call, it was a massive let-off, but it sent a terrifying message.
It really set the tone.
But here's what I am trying to wrap my head around. Watching those opening minutes, it felt like Jamaica's midfield was entirely bypassed. Like they were practically invisible out there.
Yeah, they were getting swamped.
So was that a calculated rope-a-dope strategy by Coach Speed to let DR Congo just punch themselves out, or were they just getting completely overrun?
It was survival mode, pure and simple. I really don't buy the idea that it was a voluntary rope-a-dope. The speed of Mabuku and Wissa on that left side was genuinely disruptive.
So they just couldn't keep up.
Right, Jamaica's midfield was just struggling with the cognitive and physical load of trying to close down those passing lanes. They were forced into what we call a low block, simply to weather the initial storm.
Actually, let's pause and define that for the listener. When we say Jamaica was forced into a low block, what does that physically look like on the pitch?
So visually, it means Jamaica practically parked all 10 of their outfield players within 30 yards of their own goal.
Wow, just totally collapsed backwards.
Yeah, they collapsed their formation, packing the penalty area like a can of sardines. The whole goal of a low block is to completely deny the attacking team any running space behind the defensive line.
So you basically force them to play the ball side to side in front of you.
Exactly. You hope they get frustrated and end up taking a low percentage shot from distance.
But the danger there, right, is that you are inviting relentless pressure. You are letting a team of elite attackers set up camp right on your doorstep.
It's a huge gamble.
And when you do that, your last line of defense cannot afford to make a single mistake. Which, of course, brings us to the captain, Andre Blake.
Oh, he was magnificent.
He wasn't just good in this match, he was playing angles like a billiards champion.
The positional awareness he displayed in that first half was just a masterclass in modern goalkeeping.
Let's talk about the specific mechanics of what he was doing out there. Early in the first half, Wissa whips in this incredibly dangerous cross. Blake reads the trajectory instantly and pulls off this crucial near-post snare.
That play was unbelievable.
Right. For anyone who hasn't played in goal, a near-post snare isn't just about catching the ball. It's about reading the attacker's body language, anticipating the cross, and exploding off your line.
You have to cut off the mathematical angle before the ball even reaches the danger zone.
Exactly. He made the goal look incredibly tiny to the Congolese attackers. And then, right at the start of the second half, Bakambu gets a clean look, strikes it with venom, and Blake executes this massive full-stretch diving stop.
I mean, we've seen this before. A captain realizing his team is just drowning in the midfield and deciding to put the entire nation on his back.
It's the stuff of legends.
It really is. But the impact of a performance like that, it goes far beyond just keeping the ball out of the net. It actually acts as a psychological weapon against the opposition.
Walk us through that. Like, what is actually happening in the prefrontal cortex of an elite striker like Bakambu when he hits a perfect shot and the goalkeeper still somehow manages to claw it away?
Well, it breeds a very specific type of toxic frustration. Strikers rely heavily on muscle memory and routine.
Right, they do it 1,000 times in training.
Exactly. When they execute their routine perfectly, they find the space, they make the run, they strike the ball cleanly. Their brain expects a reward.
A goal.
Right. And when Blake denies that reward repeatedly, the attackers start to subconsciously abandon their fundamentals.
Really? Like they just stop doing what works?
Yeah, they start making the simple high-percentage plays because they start believing that conventional methods just aren't going to work today. They think they need to conjure pure magic to beat the man between the sticks.
Oh, wow. Which perfectly explains that entirely bizarre moment later in the match. A DR Congo attacker gets the ball in a decent position and tries this absolutely audacious backheel flick towards the goal.
That was wild.
It looked like the kind of move you only try when you are playing FIFA on your couch and you're already up by 5 goals.
That is the perfect analogy. You do not try a no-look backheel in a World Cup qualification final unless the goalkeeper has thoroughly invaded your head.
So Blake was basically in their heads, living rent-free.
Absolutely. Blake's commanding presence was forcing DR Congo into these lower percentage highlight reel attempts. Even when guys like Chancellor Mbemba started launching direct, long balls over the top to bypass the midfield entirely, Blake's aggressive starting position neutralized the threat.
He gave the Jamaican backline the confidence to hold their shape without just completely panicking.
He was their safety blanket.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because despite being under constant siege, Jamaica wasn't just blindly booting the ball up the pitch into the grandstands every time they won possession.
No, they weren't. They were actively trying to play out from the back.
Which is crazy. They were passing the ball meticulously between their defenders, trying to build through DR Congo's high press. And I have to be honest, I was yelling at my screen.
I think a lot of people were.
Why try to play short passes around your own penalty area when your legs are completely dead and a terrifying Congolese front line is hunting you down? It feels like tactical suicide. Why not just clear the ball and reset?
I hear you, but here's the thing. If you just boot the ball away blindly, it is going to come right back at you 5 seconds later. You just become a punching bag.
So you're just inviting more pressure.
Right. Playing out from the back, even under immense pressure, is a mechanism to release the pressure valve. If Jamaica can string, say, 3 or 4 accurate passes together and beat that first line of DR Congo attackers, suddenly the entire midfield opens up.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, they force the Congolese players to sprint backwards, which burns their energy and forces them to respect the counterattack.
But the risk-reward ratio there is terrifying. I mean, one misplaced pass by a center back and Bakambu just has a free run at goal.
Absolutely terrifying. You can only deploy that strategy if your defenders have absolute unwavering trust in their goalkeeper to bail them out, if they make a mistake.
And Blake provided that safety net.
Exactly. He bought them the mental space to say, okay, we've absorbed the heaviest blows. Now let's establish our own rhythm.
And that rhythm eventually yielded a massive momentum shift. As the second half wore on, you could physically see the initial adrenaline of DR Congo's press just starting to evaporate.
They were gassed.
The Jamaican defensive wall stopped just absorbing hits and actually started finding cracks in the armor.
The game finally started to stretch. The space between the midfield and the defensive lines grew, and Jamaica found pockets to exploit.
And it almost paid off spectacularly. Tyrese Campbell turns on the jets, eating up yardage down the flank, and delivers this beautiful, looping, searching cross into the box.
Oh man, that cross.
Leon Bailey tracks it perfectly, launches his body into the air for a diving header, and the ball flashes just agonizingly wide of the post.
You could hear a collective gasp echo through the entire stadium.
It was crazy. And it wasn't just an isolated incident either. Casey Palmer started whipping in these incredibly dangerous, curving set pieces, and De Cordova-Reid was making brilliant diagonal runs that visibly panicked the Congolese defense.
Meanwhile, DR Congo's frustration was just boiling over.
Yeah, another offside call against Wakambu, and more shots from distance that sailed harmlessly into the stands.
This is where the match transcends tactics, really, and becomes an exercise in neuroscience.
Neuroscience, how so?
Well, with the game locked at 0-0 and the clock ticking toward the 90th minute, the physical fatigue completely alters the cognitive processing of every single player on the pitch.
Oh, so the brain fog sets in.
Exactly. The buildup of lactic acid doesn't just make your legs feel like lead. It actually delays your decision-making by crucial milliseconds.
That makes total sense.
For Jamaica, the fear of losing after defending so valiantly makes them second-guess their forward runs. And for DR Congo, the terror of leaving themselves exposed to a counterattack causes their fullbacks to just stop overlapping altogether.
So players who are sprinting 30 yards to offer a passing option in the first half are now hesitating.
Right. They're trying to conserve whatever fuel they have left in the tank.
Which makes a moment like Leon Bailey's missed diving header so incredibly pivotal. When you miss a golden opportunity by mere inches in a match with such fine margins, what does that do to the psyche of the squad?
It's huge.
Does it energize them, proving that the opponent can be bled? Or did that replay start looping in their heads, just haunting them as the clock winds down?
It acts as a violent psychological swing, honestly. And it usually depends on the leadership spine of the team. Immediately, it is an adrenaline spike. It screams, look, they are vulnerable.
But then time passes.
Exactly. If 10 more minutes tick by without creating another chance of that caliber, the doubt creeps in like a virus. You start wondering if that was your one golden ticket.
Wow.
And for the defending team, a near miss is like a splash of ice water to the face. It terrifies them into tightening up their defensive shape, which usually causes the game to devolve into a gritty, deadlocked stalemate.
Which is precisely the script we saw play out. Neither team could find the fatal blow in regulation. 90 minutes down. 0-0.
Everyone is just exhausted.
The whistle blows, and we are pushed into the ultimate crucible of international football, extra time.
Extra time and a qualification final isn't just an extension of the match. It's a completely different sport entirely.
Yeah, the tactical whiteboards basically get thrown in the trash at that point.
Oh, for sure.
The players are literally collapsing with cramps. The managers have exhausted all their substitutions, and it just becomes a primal test of willpower. Who can maintain focus when their central nervous system is literally screaming at them to stop moving?
And historically, in those moments of extreme glycogen depletion and mental exhaustion, scoring from open play becomes almost a statistical anomaly.
Because no one has the energy to break the lines.
Right. The attackers no longer possess that explosive burst of speed required to separate from a defender, and the midfielders are too exhausted to orchestrate complex passing triangles. The game just breaks down into disjointed transitions and fouls.
Which brings us to the defining moment of the entire deep dive. We are deep into the grueling depths of extra time. The Jamaican defense has been resolute, just absorbing wave after wave of pressure for over 100 minutes.
They were heroic.
And then DR Congo finally breaks the deadlock. But it doesn't come from a sweeping, beautiful counterattack or intricate passing. It comes from the sheer chaos of a set piece.
Always a set piece.
An in-swinging ball is driven toward the near post. It is an ugly, chaotic scramble in the box. It sneaks through the Jamaican line. And who, of all people, is there to bury it? Axel Tuanzebe.
The ultimate wild card.
Unbelievable.
A central defender stepping up into the attacking third in the most critical moment of his nation's modern footballing history.
And we cannot gloss over the context of who Tuanzebe is. I mean, this is a guy with years of top-flight Premier League experience who recently made the switch to represent DR Congo.
A huge addition to their squad.
He has played in massive stadiums under intense scrutiny, but the raw emotion on his face when that ball crossed the line was just incredible.
Oh, you can see what it meant to him.
It wasn't the most aesthetically pleasing goal, you know, it was a scrappy, desperate finish, but it was his very first international goal, scored in a match he literally described as the biggest game of his entire career.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this exact scenario highlights why set pieces are the ultimate tiebreaker in international tournaments.
Oh, 100%.
When tactical shapes have completely disintegrated and players are running on absolute empty, a dead ball situation is the singular moment of the match that you can completely control.
Because it's static.
Exactly. You drill those specific deliveries hundreds of times in practice. You aren't relying on improvisational brilliance anymore. You are relying on rehearsed geometry.
Let's actually break down that geometry, because the delivery itself was an absolute nightmare for Jamaica. You called it an in-swinger towards the near post.
Yeah.
Why is that specific type of cross so devastatingly hard to defend, especially in extra time?
Well, it all comes down to physics and reaction time. An in-swinger is struck with an inward spin, meaning the ball starts its flight path bending away from the goal, but curls viciously back toward the goalkeeper in a near post at the last second.
Wait, so it's actively changing its trajectory while it's in the air?
Precisely. It pulls the defensive line and the goalkeeper forward, but the spin brings the ball directly into the path of the oncoming attackers.
That sounds impossible to read.
It is. If an attacker gets even a glancing fractional touch on an in-swinger, the momentum drastically redirects the ball across the face of the goal, leaving the keeper totally stranded. Defending it requires instantaneous processing speed and explosive lateral movement. And after 100 minutes of grueling, lung-busting football, the Jamaican defenders' reaction times were inevitably dulled by just a fraction of a second.
So it wasn't a lack of effort.
Not at all. They didn't lack effort or desire. They were just beaten by the sheer mathematical cruelty of a perfectly placed ball when their legs were at their heaviest.
And we all remember by a single scrappy goal.
It happens so often.
The margins at this level of the sport are almost imperceptible. Think about the pure, unadulterated euphoria for DR Congo in that moment. To finally break the deadlock, to finally solve the impossible puzzle that was Andre Blake.
The relief had to be intoxicating.
Oh, without a doubt.
It was the culmination of 100 minutes of just knocking on a reinforced steel door. They tried picking the lock with Wisa and Bakambu. They tried battering it down with Mbemba's long balls. But Tuanzebe was the one who finally found the hinge.
What a metaphor.
And you have to admire the sheer discipline it takes for a center back to make a sprinting run to the near post in extra time. He knew full well that if the ball was cleared, he would have to sprint 70 yards back to his own penalty area to prevent a counterattack.
Yeah, that is a pure, selfless commitment to the badge.
Truly.
So what does this all mean? We've traced the narrative arc of this entire battle. We examined Cyber's high-octane tactical blitz in the opening minutes, designed to basically suffocate a tired Jamaican squad.
We marveled at the geometric brilliance and psychological warfare of Andre Blake, who built an absolute fortress inside his penalty area.
We felt the agonizing tension of Leon Bailey's near miss and the intense cognitive toll of extra time. And finally, we witnessed an experienced Premier League defender turned Congolese hero cementing his legacy in the utter chaos of a dead ball scramble.
It just reinforces the reality that international qualification is a brutal test of survival, just as much as it is a showcase of technical skill. Jamaica played a brilliant, deeply courageous defensive game. They executed Coach Speed's low block strategy with near perfection against a terrifyingly potent attacking force.
But football is a sport that demands utter perfection until that final whistle blows.
Exactly. One fractional lapse in concentration on a set piece, one perfectly timed, desperate run by an opposing defender, and the entire narrative of the match is permanently rewritten.
It is the razor-thin margin of World Cup qualification. You know, you can play over 100 minutes of absolutely brilliant, suffocating defense. Your goalkeeper can stand on his head, play the angles perfectly, and make save after world-class save.
And it still might not be enough.
Right? A single spinning ball in the dying embers of extra time decides the fate and the joy of an entire nation. It is a beautiful game, but it is brutally, wonderfully unforgiving.
That is the intoxicating magic and the undeniable cruelty of the sport. It gives you hope for 99 minutes and just takes it away in the 100th.
It truly does. Which leaves us with a final provocative thought for you to chew on as we wrap up today's analysis. When a defensive player like Axel Kwanzebe becomes the attacking savior in the dying moments of a monumental match, does it expose a fundamental flaw in the highly paid striker's ability to finish under immense pressure?
Ooh, that's a tough question.
Or does it actually prove that the most dangerous, truly World Cup ready teams are the ones where every single player on the pitch, regardless of their position on the depth chart, is a legitimate, lethal threat to score?
It's a fascinating dynamic to keep a very close eye on as we look ahead to the actual tournament in 2026. The teams that can attack with all 11 players are usually the ones lifting the trophy.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us for this incredible journey through the tactical weeds of qualification.
It's been a blast.
Make sure you hit that like button, drop a comment, share this video with your fellow fans, and subscribe right here to Apex Real Sports. We want to hear your thoughts down below. Was Jamaica's low block brilliant or too passive?
And what did you make of Blake's masterclass? Plus, how far can this DR Congo team actually go?
Let us know. Keep the beautiful African football conversation going in the comments, and we will see you next time.